Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. As you know, I'm Lucy. We've been doing Life Without School for so many years. In fact, my kids have never ever gone to school. I also write about parenting and do parenting workshops, and today is the very last day that you can register for my online course called Ally, Be Your Child's Guide, Friend and Advocate. It's a super cool, holistic kind of online course. What better way to spend the next 4 weeks than doing some heart nurturing and really digging deep into your understanding of respectful parenting and really finding some new tools that you can bring into your life that will help you be the parent that you really want to be. So I'll link below to that and you can kind of check that out and see if that is up your alley. Meanwhile, today we are going to go on an amazing adventure. What is an adventure? It's like fun and exciting and life-changing, and honestly I find self-improvement all of those things. But today's adventure is not just about you, the parent, but it is also something very precious and important for your kids. And in fact, what I'm going to tell you about today can actually be a proper cool as activity for you and your kids to do while you're home from school, while you are living, trying out this life without school. So today I'm going to invite you to get to know your regulation toolbox. I first really heard about self-regulation and a regulation toolbox through an amazing child rights advocate called Ruth Beaglehole, who came and did a workshop with us a couple of years ago. And I can remember the moment so clearly because she was like, and this is the work of the parent, and we all kind of like got to the edges of our seat, like, what's she gonna say? Like, what's the most important thing we can be doing? And she said, the work of the parent is regulation. And she went on to say that if we can figure out regulating our brains, we will be able to give our children everything they need. So there's an amazing book all about this called Regulate. If you're a big reader or you want more information, I highly recommend going off and checking out that book. This is a YouTube video. It's going to be a few minutes long. I'm going to share with you the kind of like guts of it so you can immediately start checking in with your kid about that and building their regulation toolbox and building your regulation toolbox. So to begin with, you need to know a little bit about the brain, and you possibly know this, but basically when something happens to you that you're not happy about, your brain can jump into fight, flight or freeze zone. As parents, this can happen quite regularly to some of us actually, because we are triggered by memories or boundary pushing. We are often kind of feels like our kids just know how to push our buttons, and because we're kind of like working within a kind of like general state of stress, we quite quickly can flip into anger or just washing your hands of it and just being like, pfft. Sometimes me and Tim say to each other, you know that quote, it's like, not my circus, not my monkeys. Sometimes we'll just say that to each other, we'll be like, not my monkeys, and then we're like, they are. But what is really asked of us is to stay engaged, so not jump into anger and not kind of drop into like, not my monkeys, but to stay engaged so that we can kind of meet our children's needs and hold space for them emotionally. But to do that, we need to kind of be able to tune into the warning signs about when we're heading into dysregulation. And I find this whole thing so fascinating because it really expresses how different we all are. So there are lots of different types of regulators. So there are auditory regulators, oral regulators, visual regulators, touch regulators and movement regulators. I'm going to describe a little bit about each one so that you can recognize yourself, because once you recognize yourself, you can start working on your toolbox. You'll also recognize your kid within this description as well. So if you are an auditory regulator, your warning signs will come from your mouth. You might kind of like get tension in your jaw, you might grit your teeth or bite your nails or have a shortness of breath. You might also be auditory if you kind of like feel the need to like cover your ears, if loud noises just become too much for you, or if you feel yourself pulling on your ears or around this area. And interestingly, the way that your body lets you know that you're heading into a dysregulated state is also the way that you can regulate your state. So I am auditory. I get quite like tense around my mouth and I'm really, really soothed by music. So I have different Spotify playlists for different feelings that come up within me, and when I start to feel that tension of heading into dysregulation, I can put on my playlist with my headphones and listen to that for a while, and I can feel myself checking in with my body and coming out of that state. If you are auditory, you might enjoy having a mantra that you come back to and say, or you might enjoy listening to affirmations. Let's move on to movement regulator. You're a movement regulator if you find yourself pacing with anger and getting all tense in your body when you start to feel overwhelmed. And in the same way, that is your ticket to regulation. So going for a run, doing some power poses, punching a pillow, doing some yoga stretches, having a bath, or swinging in a hammock or rocking in a rocking chair. These are all ways that you will get your body and your brain back from like kind of zone. If you are a sigher, or a swearer or a shouter, you are probably an oral regulator. You will regulate by singing, roaring, having a mantra. Those are your little keys to freedom. If you are somebody that kind of like pulls at things or fiddles your hair or kind of breaks things with your hands, you are probably a touch regulator, and you will be served by stroking your pet, finding a snuggly blanket, having a bath or a shower, or using like a fidget spinner or a stress ball thing. And finally, if you are somebody who does a death stare or says things like, look at me, then you are probably a visual regulator, and you will find your ticket out of dysregulation by looking at your favorite painting on a wall, looking at a photo of your kids when they were little, looking at a photo from a lovely memory, kind of like triggering endorphins through your eyesight. That is your ticket. Getting our heads around how we can regulate ourselves is such a valuable thing, because it means that we're much more likely to, more of the time, and nobody is perfect, like it's natural to kind of like lose it every now and then. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like you'll never ever lose it once you get in touch with this, but it will give you tools so that you can remain for longer and more consistently aligned with your parenting values. But obviously, as I've been speaking, you've probably like recognized your kids in here, and what an amazing gift to be able to share with your children a toolbox that they can check in with. So me and my kids have sat down and we've had this conversation. They are 6 and 9. I reckon 5 or 6 is probably a good age to do this with, because up until then actually, you just want to hold space for their feelings, right? And not lead them to think that before they let their feelings out, they need to like kind of hold it in and go to their regulation toolbox or something. But once they start getting a bit older, you can start having conversations, because they'll probably start saying to you things like they don't like getting angry and aggressive and physical. They would probably quite enjoy having access to this kind of toolbox. So we've sat down with our kids, had this conversation, and we've given them a little drawer, and in their drawer they have got things that they can access when they start to feel themselves getting like they can go to their drawer and they can, so there's rescue remedy in there. There's like a really super soft cuddly toy for my touch regulator, and we've just kind of sat down and found things that will be useful for our kids and their particular personalities, their particular way that they regulate. Yeah, so there's a little challenge for you and your kids. Maybe you want to do that today, to have a little conversation about the brain, regulation, and then build a little box, like an actual physical thing. Maybe it's in a little bag or a jar. We've done a lot of jar action, haven't we? And they can go to it and they can really start to get in touch with how they can bring themselves down from the cliff edge. I'd love to hear from you. Did you recognize yourself in those descriptions? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have found a way to regulate yourself that I didn't mention, because obviously there's hundreds and hundreds of ways, and you've had a lifetime of being you. You could well have found this key to unlocking your regulation toolbox. So do share that in the comments, because that will be super inspiring for people. And remember that my course Ally is available to register today for the next 24 hours. I'd love to see you on that course. People are joining from all over the world. You can catch the live calls if you want, but if it doesn't work for you, you can just download them. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love you to share it with people. Definitely hit subscribe, and wherever you are in the world, much love to you. Mwah.